So, all right. So now I've got some audio. I hope I got some audio. How's my audio check out there? Setting these things up. I tell you, now I know why there's not a lot of live broadcasts. Because you need an entire crew of people who are just saying, hey, yeah, you don't have any audio going on out there. But now I got my chat window up and I've got my microphone on and now I can talk about some business. But actually, I had a really good practice in my last run. I'm like going, oh, yeah, that was some good stuff there. So if you're back, welcome back. And this time I've got some audio. And hopefully I'm broadcasting out to all my different channels here. So I am Wesley, and welcome to my financial channel. And I am located in the Philippines. Right now I'm in El Umulufo, which is a resort that my wife and I have. We're located in South Cotabato. And it's something that I had done over the last 2.5 years. It's kind of bored. So I built a resort. Haven't done that before, but I've been an entrepreneur all my life, and I've built a number of businesses here in the Philippines, some small. This is by far the resort here is the biggest venture I've had so far. And so, all right. So now, Gabriel, thanks. Okay, now you got some audio. Great. How's my audio doing? So I was talking about business. I had a friend of mine come up today. His name is Wolf. I met Wolf at a local restaurant here. I'll be shouting out a bunch of businesses. Local restaurants, Alfonso's Cafe, located in General Santos, probably arguably one of the best restaurants I've been to here in the Philippines, hands down. He's an international chef for the last 15 whatever plus years, came back to General Santos, and he's just crushing it. He's opening up a number of places. You might know him at Robata or Alfonso's Cafe. There's another Robata that just opened up, it's a Japanese restaurant, and then one up in Davao. So if you're listening, I definitely recommend those guys. But one of the things I do like about dining in a nice restaurant is meeting people. And whenever you talk about meeting people, you end up talking about business. And so I met this guy named Wolf. Wolf is from Canada. He's an older gentleman, a little older than me. I always like meeting guys that are older than me, have been around the block a little bit longer. So I like to just sit there and listen to him and ask some questions. And so he and I started talking about business. Come to find out, he provides the tomatoes for a number of the top places around here. And as a matter of fact, his tomatoes are so good, they're sold before they're even grown. I'm like, well, I like that kind of business model. And so, because when you talk about the Philippines here, and people talk about the business, one of the first things that they talk about is, well, they talk about a number of things about the Philippines. One is business. Second would probably be women, or women in business, somewhere in that neighborhood. And then there's travel, and there's politics, and then there's religion. But of that top 4 or 5 subjects, business is definitely one of them. But business is kind of tough. You know, people like to talk about business, but usually by the time they get to the Philippines, they are in retirement mode, so they've got a good career behind them. Every once in a while, you get someone that's here and they still feel like doing some work, kind of like me. And so Wolf and I started talking about his business, which is growing tomatoes. Not just any old tomatoes, because if you've had tomatoes in the Philippines, you know they're not very impressive. But he was telling me not only does he get top money for his tomatoes, but all of his tomatoes are sold before they're even grown, which blows me away. And so, you know, kind of like that market, especially if you're in the South Cotabato, which this area is considered to be the breadbasket of the Philippines. So if you've got food and produce, the most produce is actually produced in this area. This is like the farming area of the Philippines. My wife and I have 4 farms. We were just developing out one of them yesterday. I'm going to actually put some videos up with that. It's kind of interesting. But when you're talking about making money in the Philippines, on a Philippine standard is, if you just go out and get a job, you're making 350 pesos. Let's just double that. Let's just say $7 a day to $10 a day. That's what people think about when they talk about making money. So, you know, if you're riding around a trike taxi, if you're making 500 pesos a day, you're supporting your family. If you're out farming, by the time you're all said and done, Here in this area, if you're averaging your 300 pesos per day, by the time you end up working your farm and paying people and this and that, you're kind of averaging a couple $100 a month. Maybe you own a farm, and you have caretakers on the farm. No one's getting rich on farms around here, and I can tell you why in a different podcast. But I've studied the farming industry here, and you've got to have a lot of capital in order to really get into farming. And I'll cover the farming as well. But going back to my story with Wolf and I started talking about greenhouses, talking about tomatoes, and yes, and his tomatoes are engineered in Jordan. And so his seeds, he flies the seeds in, pays a ton of money and I'm actually going to have Wolf on the show, so I'll get into the nitty gritty about how to raise tomatoes in the Philippines and how to make money in the Philippines raising tomatoes. But he's telling me about this whole thing where he's got these seeds coming in from Jordan that have been genetically modified to grow in the Philippines climate. And not just the hollow tomatoes that you see here, which typically end up being, there's not a lot of juice in the tomatoes, so it's filled with hormones, and they're all kind of look the same, not so good. But his tomatoes are big, fat, juicy tomatoes, steak tomatoes. He's got numbers for all of them because that's what he does. But mainly some of my favorite tomatoes are his cherry tomatoes. His cherry tomatoes are spot on, juicy, sweet. I can just sit down and eat an entire bowl full of them. And usually when he comes up, if he's got some left over, he'll bring me some. And so between breakfast and lunch, I just devour the tomatoes. So he and I we start talking about the tomatoes, but then we start talking about the businesses in the Philippines, talking about what kind of stuff I want. I mean, I should have had a podcast going. If I had my stuff together, I would have had a 2-hour podcast to him, because he and I talked about business for an hour straight and started laughing about some of the things and some of the challenges here in the Philippines about running businesses, and you're dealing with everything from labor, obviously you're always going to have to deal with labor in the Philippines. And so part of my podcast is I'll definitely talk about labor and why sometimes it's a challenge, but he and I are talking about tomatoes, and then we started talking about sorry stores, and then we started laughing because every foreigner that I know of, every foreigner I've ever talked to has been hit up at least once to help someone open up a sorry store. Now, for you those who are not in as far as some of the Philippines, a sorry store are these little tiny stores that are in like every single village and every single barangay and every corner of every block. There is a little tiny store. It's probably less than this, about the average size of a bathroom or a CR. It's really small, and they usually have a caged window on it, and then you just say, oh yeah, I want some coffee, or I want this, or I want that, and you give them their money, and it's kind of like a little teller window, so it's not like a walk-in 7-Eleven, but the way I describe sorry stores, it's like an American pantry. You just open up the pantry and then everything is there. And so the sorry stores, I'm going to do a whole segment on them, because they are, not only are there like tens of thousands of sorry stores in the Philippines, about every foreigner I know has helped build a sorry store, and some are successful. I know someone here in our barangay who runs an extremely successful sorry store, so I want to cover that. But also, I've helped with a sorry store, and needless to say, it's no longer running. And I can kind of share with you what I've learned about the sorry stores. But he and I are talking about businesses, and it's not easy as people think to open up a store in the Philippines. or actually not store, I'm sorry, just in any business in the Philippines. Now, people come here, and one of the biggest comments that you see on the expat groups, expatriate groups, where foreigners hang out, is, can I come to the Philippines and make money at my profession? Oh, what's happened here? I don't know what's happening on my live stream. Did I, am I back? I guess so. I don't know where that glitch came from. That's weird. So, people, I hope I'm back. Am I back? Someone shoot me a comment. Yeah, there we go. Alamofo, wrestling, free. Okay, there we go. So, as I was saying, is that people come here and they comment, it's like, oh, I'm good at this, I'm good at that. Can I come here to the Philippines and make money? That's a tough question. The short answer is probably not. Or if you could do business, assuming that you had a work visa, which I'll tell you a story about. If you had a work visa and everything else like that, you have to understand the going rate for, let's just say, starting wages here are somewhere between $7 to $10 a day. So even on a nursing level, skilled profession level, they're making $300 a month, $500, $400 a month, if they're lucky. And so people don't make a lot of money here. So if you've got a high paying job in your country and you want to come here and you want to make money, you either have to start out with a lot of capital, and you've got to be a really savvy business owner. You've got to jump through a bunch of hoops, and at the end of the day, you got to know what you're doing. So unless you're a real successful entrepreneur in your home country and you want to come here and you want to make money, that's the wrong place. The best thing to do for if you want to stay and live in the Philippines and you want to make money is establish some sort of income in your country that you can work remotely. Like I've got an IT company back in the U.S. that I still continue to run and manage, and that gives me a nice income over here. Obviously, we built my wife and I. We built the resort that's doing very, very well, and I'll be happy to share with you how to build a resort in the Philippines. But again, you have to be a pretty savvy business owner or an entrepreneur. But I know people that have said, "Oh, I want to come here and I want to do this and I want to do that." Well, it's difficult. I'm not going to lie to you. It's difficult. Not only are the banking systems very challenging, the rules and regulations are extremely challenging, and then you've got the Bureau of Internal Revenue, which is also very challenging. So there's a lot of hurdles. I'm not saying it's not impossible, but the best thing to do is, if you're wanting to come to the Philippines and you want to live and continue to work, it's good that you have a nice plan. I tell people farming is always pretty good. Whether it's chicken farms or fish farms or pig farms or coconut farms, although coconut farms don't make a lot of money. That's you have to do stuff with it. Fish farming is good, but usually you have to capitalize it pretty good, and don't rely on any sort of capital investment here from the Philippines. So, where was I? Oh, we started. Wolf was here for like an hour and a half, 2 hours. So we started talking about businesses, and we started talking about all the various different businesses in the Philippines. And so, if you're a business owner, and actually I know quite a few of you might be listening. If you're a business owner, I would love to talk to you about sharing your story on my podcast. If you know of a business owner who might be interested, tag them in the comments below, so they can say, "Hey, this is Guy Wesley, American," and oh, thanks, Gath, talking about my coming here to the Philippines. So if you want to talk business on the podcast, this is kind of the format. Format's going to be about 2 to 3 hours worth of talking about business, about life, about Philippines, about while you're here, I'll interview you. And I can either interview you on site or I can interview you through my software that you just call up and either get on your computer or on your phone or whatever. And we kind of do that style with the windows side by side and that sort of thing. And then from that, we're going to edit it down into a nice show. And then I'll have some sort of like a Patreon or a paywall that allows people to see the full and edited, uncut version of the entire program. And then we may talk about, maybe deep core numbers and that sort of thing. So that's the format. Business is a topic that I really don't see covered adequately here. When I see people commenting on it, my default comeback is anytime somebody's like, "Hey, can I make money in the Philippines?" My typical response is, "How do I make money in the Philippines?" And my one-line response is OnlyFans. It's a private joke. So beyond that, coming to the Philippines and starting up a business or a company, whether it be for a girlfriend or a spouse or a family member, I will be covering all of those topics here. And if you want certain topics that you want, if you have a question about business, whether you should open up a restaurant or a sorry store or this or that, let me know in the comments or shoot me a PM, and I'd be happy to take a look at it. If I think I can do a pretty good show on it, I will definitely do a show on it, or I'll mention it in maybe some brief or some highlights about that if it's fairly unique. I've been a business consultant for almost 30 years, entrepreneur since I was a teenager, since I was a kid, and so I love talking about business while I'm traveling. So it's one of the first things I see is like, what is the commerce like around here, and whether it's someone has a little fruit stand on the side of the road to big, huge, multi-million-dollar processing plants. I'm definitely interested in talking to people on how they got started and how they make money in the Philippines. So that's it. What else? What else to talk about? Besides business, the banking systems here very challenging. I can talk about an entire show on that. Payment gateways, online businesses. I just read an article this morning how they're looking at trying to revamp the hotel industry here. Department of Tourism is trying to get involved with it, trying to make it better. I definitely have some suggestions on how they could do that, being a resort owner. And so there's a lot of challenges coming in here. But if you're already here, you know about that. But if you're not here and you're thinking, oh, I just had a vacation, like I just read this guy who's he's an accomplished therapist, a counselor, and he's from the UK. I don't know his name. I just gave him a comment. He's like, hey, can I come there and can I continue my practice there because I'm not quite ready to retire? My response to him was, it's best if you get your business online, so that the transition there would be get your business online, get your practice online, get used to seeing patients online or counseling people online or creating content online, and then that frees you up to travel. And actually we EOL Studios are really focused on actually helping people transition their practices from a physical practice to an online practice, whatever that is, if it's possible. Certain industries obviously aren't possible, but there's a lot of industries that are. And then once you have an income stream coming in, and you realize that there's an income stream coming in, then your possibilities open up tremendously. I've got a story. Back in the 80s, there was this product called TopFast, TOPPFAST. It was a multi-level marketing thing. And so most people are familiar with multi-level marketing. So, you buy the product, you get all your friends to take the product. Well, this product was for weight loss. it was a protein-sparing modified fast diet. My wife and I, my first wife, and I got into selling Top Fast through a family member. And we did okay at it. We didn't do gangbusters at it. But so when I started getting involved with the internet, which was right around 93, 94, I thought to myself, you know what? I could actually put that old diet product on the internet. So lo and behold, back in the day, before there was ever really even any e-commerce, I ended up calling the doctor directly, and I said, hey, do you still sell that Top Fast stuff that you've got? And he says, yeah, he was out of Irvine, California. And maybe if you look it up, it's underneath a different product right now. And I said, I seem to remember that you had a book, a Top Fast book, and it was about, this thick, a couple 100 pages or whatever, taught people how to lose weight and everything. And I said, do you mind if I put that book online? And he's like, online? I don't even know what online means. And I said, well, don't worry about it. If I can just put it online, people can read it online because I know it's not in print anymore. That would be great. So, this is before any e-commerce at all. And so I put a couple pictures on the internet, and I scanned in the entire book, and I OCR'd it, so it got all the text out of it and everything else like that. And I put chapter by chapter by chapter on the internet. And at the bottom of each chapter, I put this little link that said, hey, do you want to order Top Fast? And so it was about as basic of a website as you could possibly imagine. Again, this was 94, so 30 years ago now. Almost 30 years, 29 years ago. And so my then wife and my 3 kids were living in Madison, Wisconsin, and I had some coffee houses there, and I turned them into internet cafes. It's a different story. But one of the things that stuck was the internet. So I'm playing with this thing, and I get my website up and going and everything else. And lo and behold, people start calling us up for orders. And then I was like one of the first drop shippers. So I would get the order. I would get all the payment information from the customer, like literally over the phone or through the web page. I would call up the doctor, and I'd say, hey, here's the credit card number. They want a case of this and they want a case of that. Here's the address. And then he would ship out the product at my cost, or what I charged for it. And then every month he would send me a check in the mail for what I had actually made. So I was one of the first drop shippers, probably in the world. Arguably, probably one of the first online retailers and drop shippers in the world. This was even before I went to New York and started making money on e-commerce. So that turned into about it's my wife's here. Hello. That turned into about an $80,000, about a $4 million a year budget. Hello, my wife. I was talking about online businesses. This is my wife, Marissa. You can say hello. What's that? I'm live. But you're halfway in. You have to come in more. There you go. Now you're in the set. See? There you go. This is Marissa. We've been married for 5 years now. We celebrated our 5th wedding anniversary. She's running. She is running the resort. How's that going for you? Stuff. You did not go to MBA Business College.
No, not.
No. And so I think yes, we go? Oh, we got stuff to do. Well, this is my live broadcast, so I'll get it wrapped up here. I will save my stories for another day. Oh, I know. It's so hot in here, right? I need to get my... Oh, you cannot do
that's
this.
enough because my husband is so wet.
It's hot. It's hot. I was going to turn on this other fan, but then it's a beautiful day. It's actually nicer than the day that I have on my background here. You have to get in there. All right. That's about it. I will talk more about business, about online businesses, about coming over from different countries and continuing to make money. I will pick up this broadcast another day, and in a part 2. That's it. I do plan on having some more guests here. I have to tell my entire crew, hey, this is the plan. We're going to start going out and doing actual shows and pieces on business. So that's it. Thank you, everyone. And this is Wesley live from El Mulufo. Anything you want to say?
You already said.
Okay. All right. Take care, everyone.